Damn, dude. Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
The one who felt the earth.
bro,
So,
and then Biff.
so, um, welcome to this week's episode.
What up?
The week after April 1st.
Woot.
And naturally, the first thing we're going to talk about is that fucking Harambe beat that Elon Musk dropped.
Oh yeah! I dab to that and then floss my teeth and my freaking body with that. Yep, that beat gets me going. It's a banger, if I do say so myself.
I don't
A
know whether or
banger.
not I should be worried for him.
You should.
I mean, I could, but where's the fun in that?
Hmm.
So yeah, that was a fun thing that happened, and I find it amusing that Elon did that because he's a full-on meme lord at this point.
Yeah, some dudes just parent of the public though, so I'm not that surprised. But trying to revive that Harambe meme, that is surprising. I thought it was dead in the ground. Very much like the gorilla.
Hey Elon, if you're listening to this, you should hit us up. We got some ideas.
Sponsor us.
Don't
Hashtag
sponsor us. Just
sponsorship.
Now, if you think
yeah.
of one singular audience listening to us, that man happened to be Elon Musk.
That'd be hilarious, honestly.
Yeah, like what are the chances? Like who in the McKecken? But I mean, hey, there's always hope.
All
All
right.
right,
Now to
seriously.
start with actual stories. And continuing on the idea of shit that's funny. Guess what the newest problem that the liberals have with shutting down the border is?
That it costs too much money.
Uh,
Wrong.
that CD
Um,
on the side of the wall.
Wrong.
Man, I thought it was close.
how many guesses do we have?
As many as you want.
Okay,
Let's not screw around.
ask the questions. The question again? I mean, the what? Say it again.
What is the big problem that the liberals have with shutting down the border this time?
What do they mean? What do you mean by shut it down? Like they take the
Trump
people
is
away?
talking about shutting down the border and closing it up,
What do you mean by that?
not letting anyone in or out of the southern border.
For how long and why? And when did this happen?
He's talking about doing it because of the migrant crisis and all the migrant caravans.
Shit, is there more happening now?
Apparently, there's been a constant, steady stream of them.
Yeah, I don't know
Bro.
why he's saying that now of all times. Like this has been like an ongoing issue here. I suppose
Well,
we
yeah, but
can't really
Trump is
fault him.
finally threatening to shut down the border, and my question is, guess why the
Honestly, I'm
liberals
fine with
take
that.
issue with Trump threatening to shut down the border?
Oh,
Hurts their feelings.
wait, hold on. I feel
Sort
like
of.
do I know this?
Yeah, you see, I knew it. I knew it. If you just answer, it
Do I know
hurts
this?
feelings in
Do I know
some
it?
or another.
But I
Did he
mean,
just say
that's
it?
too
I didn't
basic
hear
and
it.
broad.
I didn't hear it. Wait, I didn't hear what he just said. Did he say it?
No, he
What did he say
said
it was?
because it hurts their feelings, and I'm like, that's a low blow because we're talking about liberals. They hate everything because it
Oh
hurts
my
their
god.
feelings.
Yeah, you see, like to me, that's just kind of like the skeleton key to all their problems.
Is it
But
agriculture related?
kind of.
It
Is
hurts the
it
feelings of the immigrants.
No.
Damn.
because they're mad that that they don't have food in Mexico to feed all the
No.
immigrants? Shit.
Okay, so enough of this tomfoolery, Frederick. The answer.
I'm trying to figure it out. No, I want to genuinely figure this out.
Well, Google.
What the? Shut up.
You know what?
Oh. Okay, I don't know.
I'm gonna just tell y'all.
Is it avocados?
Yeah, it's avocados.
Oh my god.
The liberals are upset because if we shut down the border, we're gonna run out of avocados.
Oh my.
I am
Oh, guys, farm the avocado.
Because apparently, if we were to shut down the border with Mexico, they have this delusion that we would run out of avocados within 3 weeks. And yes, to them, their avocados are more important than the immigration crisis.
I honestly wouldn't even care. Like, I could go without avocado for fucking.
You see, like my man
This
here.
sounds like an April Fool's joke, but I promise you it's not.
It's literally the government going like, okay, what if we do like they're at a point now where nobody actually is mad at each other and nobody actually hates each other and they're just fucking going around like, okay, we need to like end the fucking like the rivalry and shit, but like it's April, you know, like we can have a little more time to just fuck with them. They're like, okay, what can we do? And then somebody fucking pipes up. They're like, what if we fucking piss off everyone, especially the vegans? And then somebody's like, yeah, the vegans, get those fucking vegans. And that guy's like, what if we fucking shut down the border and somebody rattles off some numbers about fucking avocados, and somebody just looks at him and they're just like, "You fucking devil of a genius! Like somebody needs to promote you." And they literally like that's what they did. They sat on their asses. They fucking did that. That's what's happening in the government literally right now. I can just feel it in my bones.
I mean, I like that visualization, but this actually came from newspapers, starting with the I think the Union Tribune was the first to print an article about it, and I think a couple of other larger
Our Union Tribune,
newspapers. What?
our Union Tribune.
I think so, because
Oh my god.
I mean, obviously we're nearby the border where we live, so obviously our
Yeah, it's
newspaper.
like our
And then I
immediate
think the New
issue.
York Times picked up on the story,
Oh my
and there's a
god.
whole bunch of liberals, especially on college campuses, which is primarily where I exist now these days, are upset because if we shut down the border, we're gonna run out of avocados.
I'm
Which
amazed.
amuses me because the open borders policy and the migrant crisis is responsible for a whole bunch of humanitarian disasters. The
Uh,
least of which, as much as I hate to say it, the least of which is the women who get sexually harassed when they're being smuggled up to the US.
exactly, like 1 in 3 women, right? It's even worse than the like fake statistics people be using these days.
70%
Like,
is the
oh
estimate of
god,
women who are illegally immigrate here. And these liberals, you know what's more important to them
so fucking
than stopping that is their fucking avocados.
god damn,
Like,
dude.
how first world do you have to be?
This is
So,
literally, dude.
world, your
I keep
biggest issue
saying
at the
this.
moment is
I
that
keep
it's too
saying
cold on
this.
the inside, and then you
I
have to
keep
walk
saying this.
outside, and then it's so hot on the outside that you want to go back inside.
I keep saying this.
I
It's
relate to that first world
another
problem
Marie
on many
Antoinette
levels.
situation all over again. It's Marie Antoinette, motherfucking people don't understand how good they have it in the United States, and they're ungrateful as shit, and they don't know how to actually look at reality, and it's literally happening again. Except the people back then were living like our current middle class people, like lower middle class,
Yeah, man, we're living like Larry.
living like Larry, my guy.
But and like in all seriousness, my take on it is this is just like an argument that comes up for the sake of argument. I think when people say like, "Oh, we're losing avocados," like that's just an extension of like what we lose in terms of like exports from like other areas through the border to us. But my counter argument to that is the United States is a very fast and well developed country. If we desire such things, we could self produce. Now, yes, there would be like an incredible amount of taxation or just like a hike in like the prices because anything made in the US is naturally going to be much more expensive because our
Okay, but also let's consider just because they're shutting down the border does not mean that trade is going to stop. They're going to stop people from going back and forth over that particular border, but they won't be shutting down port cities like San Diego, which a lot of produce gets shipped into.
well,
I like
now you
produce.
actually have a point there. I mean, the border is a very specified location. It does a very specific job. And Yeah, I mean, it's not like we're trying to go into isolationism because if that were the case, oh boy, that'd be rough on us. We wouldn't
We'd
be
have a
living
lot of ground to
anymore.
cover.
Yeah, I mean, you can't have an entire society of live like Larry's. You know, there's a lot of structural functionalists would like to argue that society is actually at its most efficient with inequalities at a class based level.
Yeah,
Now,
basically, at
yeah,
least until such a time as we can create fully autonomous,
right,
workers that are robots. But then again, once we do that, we will still have a lower class. They'll just be robots
right, and so
instead
again,
of
like,
people.
and people are naturally the higher class. It becomes like a species divide at that point. You know how meta, right? Now, the way I see it, you got your avocados from Mexico, and you got other exports there. And I'm not even going to go into drugs. I'm going to go to other totally legal things, right? Even if they shut down the border, that does not cut it off. You have a very, very strong point there, Trigger. And because of this, that argument is more or less invalid. I understand the spirit of the argument, but when it isn't actually going to become a factor, it's just noise. There is a lot of misinformation and noise that comes into a lot of these higher level debates. The border is going to be a literal international sort of idea at play here, not
Well, it
just
also
our.
to me kind of signals that the left doesn't really have an actual reason not to want to shut down the border. They just don't want to because their political agenda tells them not to. And so when they don't see any logical reason to not shut down the border, their go-to is, what about the avocados?
Yeah, and you got a point that and this is where it comes into the sort of underlying nature of man, which is that conflict always persists. Even if it finds its root in very silly, fragile ideas, there will always be argumentation because humanity has evolved to be an humanity has evolved to be an argumentative being. It's simply our proclivity. And so that's what we're seeing here. However, fortunately enough, we've evolved to a certain point that I do believe that if it is the sole reason to deny it, such an agenda is going to go through, and the border will get shut down. Which, by the way, what is our opinions on such an idea?
I mean,
Y'all can
we
have
are
this one.
facing a legitimate crisis of people trying to illegally immigrate from South America.
Fair point.
Like,
Outcome.
it's a legitimate thing, and legitimate problems are occurring because of it.
Outcome. You.
Man, y'all can have this conversation to be completely honest.
You're tired of this conversation?
I said y'all can have this like portion of it however long you want it at least, because honestly I'm sitting here hearing all this and it's just like
All right. Y'all want to
So
hear something funny?
yes,
my thing is the
sense.
conversation on like the immigration crisis and everything that I was hoping like one of you guys would get to is the fact that like um the conversation isn't really even where it needs to be with the border, and he's focusing the efforts in like ways that some people wouldn't agree on,
This is true.
obviously. And it's just like from a fundamentally different standpoint, you can have a bunch of other what's it called, solutions that would potentially yield the same results. And like I don't know what that would be, but
Well, because one of the
I just
big
think it's so sad that all those people that are in sorry, the initial situation that would put them in a headspace of like, well, this seems like a good option, being in a position where I know I'm going to be you know getting raped and having to give my teenage daughter and young children plan B pills and stash them on myself so I can like at least know that I won't be getting pregnant and stuff. Like, can you imagine being in that situation? That's so
yeah.
like heartbreaking to know. It's not just happening
I
here
mean, it's
either. It's
heartbreaking
like
to think that there's people in situations like that trying to come here, and instead of helping them, like instead of going to the nations where that's happening and trying to fix shit, we're just trying to take them all in.
Yeah, it's like if we're gonna be a good Samaritan or whatever, at least just go to the nations and try to fix whatever negative influences are happening there. But like honestly, the best option would be just to stop getting involved in other people's shit and just to do our thing and be a global power, because that's our like strong suit. If the government, like I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys, whoever, is hearing this, and both of you guys, either one or two of you, the majority of the two that I'm talking to right now, I'm pretty sure the consensus between us is that the government, sucks at relatively most everything it does, unless it's
Yeah,
like
that's a
its
consensus
main
we have.
stuff. So it's just like, why are y'all trying to get involved in people's shit in the first place? Like, fucking, we don't need to have this welfare system that we don't have protected on any fronts. Okay, first of all, it's not even like a conversation that we don't have good protection of our land. So this conversation that we had with Donald about Donald Trump being racist and everything doesn't fucking add up. So the initial backlash about the wall,
Smoke and mirrors.
exactly, that shit don't matter. So
Most
when we move
politics
on
these
to
days is smoke and mirrors.
exactly. When we move on from that conversation, there's just another layer of bullshit. And after that, there's another layer of bullshit. So it's not even about, the racism thing. It's not even about whether the wall is going to be,
But
effective. It's
I mean,
about whether
since
we're
at this
having the right
point they're arguing
conversation with
over
the wall itself.
avocados, hopefully that means there's not many layers of bullshit
Exactly.
left we
Like
have
if,
to
if
deal with.
that's what they're resorting to, we know for absolute fucking certain that what I'm saying is not today's news. Okay? We've been known this shit. They know we know it. They're basically just fucking with us at this point. It's that late in the game to where their
Basically,
attempts are that pathetic. So we gotta know when to cut the bullshit, okay? Like we gotta know when to just cut through and have the actual conversation of, okay, listen, there's a crisis. We've been known there's a crisis. There's a crisis, that dates back past Obama. Okay, it's not just about Obama. We got to get to a place where this conversation isn't fucking hashed out every other, 16, 8, 4 years, just because somebody all of a sudden decides that they don't fucking, want to give up their position of power. Like in a lot of
Right.
situations,
A,
there's
a set
there's
a set policy. Gotcha.
yeah, it's not even just, you know, like, oh, should we have a wall or da 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 da. Like he's not some revolutionary that thought of the wall in the first place. Okay, it's a concept that's been around since the Obama era and prior.
it's been
All
around
right,
since like Reagan.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's gone back a while. So literally, all he's doing is being a typical Republican. You know, having a shitty kind of attitude. If we want
Actually,
to
I
go by
think
the liberal
LBJ may
agenda.
have been the first person to propose a border wall.
The who?
LBJ, Lyndon B. Johnson.
I don't even know who that is. But okay. Hell yeah. Landon. Brandon.
Lyndon. He
Lyndon.
was a Democrat, yes, Josh?
Lyndon B. Johnson. Yes, he was actually a very revolutionary Democrat
Yeah,
because
he's
he
tweaking
set
also.
the contemporary standard of what a Democrat is.
All right, so we've established the fact that, like, according to the Democrat Party and according to also fucking objective data, Democrat Party has a certain character or whatever. It also has certain other elements of characteristics that we don't like. So does the Republican Party. And going by their standards of like shitty Republicans or whatever, like, yeah, Donald Trump's a head ass, but also it's not some revolutionary idea that doesn't stretch past, the Republican Party. Like, he's not the first person who thought of this stuff. Personally, I think the wall's our best bet right now. And I'm glad that we're finally like finishing a conversation, because like the healthcare situation, which directly folds into this, so not unsurprisingly, um, that conversation is like never going to end until we figure out some way to get that into the private sector. So it's not an element of this conversation. So again, smoke and mirrors, you know, not helping these people, whatever, was the first conversation. Like, they're not even having it anymore. They gave up on that conversation because people are exposing like the situation with immigration as like way better than they make it out to be. So it's like none of the traditional conversation markers of the wall conversation are like present, and it's weird
Yeah.
to me. And that's why I'm kind of struggling with forming like a concrete opinion about all this stuff, because it's just like everything I see is bullshit until I see something done and see numbers change. That's what I'm looking for. That's literally all. That's the only conversation that I'm having. It's not because I support one person or I think one thing. It's about the data in front of me. Okay, evaluating whether that data is potentially or factually skewed, and then figuring out what our best bet is in the grand scheme of the conversation that we're having. Because like I forgot who said it. It was more about like in their words, having like a popularity contest and an actual popular person finally entering it and immediately winning. That was kind of the situation with Donald Trump, and like he's like I said, he's this kind of spitting image of like a a typical like snot nose like Republican businessman dude, from especially from the media eyes. If you're looking at it from that perspective and you're trying to formulate your opinion through like the Hollywood type, the news, TMZ, whatever, who's talking about who, that kind of position, then you're gonna see him as like that image. But it's like it's the best idea we got, and personally I'm all for it regardless of like his background and stuff, because like it's just he's president. Like what the fuck, like what else are we gonna do? We're not getting any other ideas. We have other niggas in the government talking about fucking cow farts. Like if you don't care about some shit other than that, you ain't got the right priorities in mind if you're talking about the government, and you're concerning yourself about that. So I just it's a lot of like pros and cons. It's always that like lesser of the two evils conversation for me. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because like I don't know. I feel like I just filled a lot of space with just like I don't know, and that's why I
You
was just
basically
like,
just
this
did.
conversation. That's what I'm
I'm gonna
saying.
move on to
Like
the next story,
so
which
weird.
which is kind of also another comedic story, and we're going international with this news. So the French government released a law stating that any political campaign or any advertisement that pushes a political message has to directly say the name of every person who paid for that advertisement, right?
It's gonna take so much time out of the actual advertisement.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
here's the thing: is the French government released an advertisement encouraging French citizens to vote,
Okay.
and the law that they put forward about political advertisements
Yeah.
censored their advertisement because their
What?
own advertisement didn't meet their standards. Their advertisement did not meet their own standards.
They literally did that
Hmm.
shit so they would like make people be like, oh, they actually care about the law. Like that shit, bitch,
No,
boy.
I'm just like,
That's some fucking. That's
how
some fuckery if
fucking
I've ever heard of it.
stupid do you have to be to release a law and then accidentally censor yourself?
Accidentally.
No,
Yeah, I think that's what Alcom's trying to hit at here. Is it wasn't accidental. This was all just a ploy to show that the French government is
It's some
very much.
well,
bullshit.
it wasn't the French government that made the call because the French government put their advertisement out on Twitter, and it
Aren't
was
they
actually
illegal?
Twitter that censored it because it didn't meet France's legal guidelines.
Oh my god. Wait. Does that mean the US is gonna have to do that shit too?
I hope not.
No, I
Oh
don't
my
think so.
god.
The U.S. and the free don't like, and France. We don't have collusions when it comes to laws.
And what I'm saying, like last time we was talking about this, it was like some
Article
weird.
13.
Yeah, like what if we got some Article 13 type shit happening with that? I hope to God. I pray. I pray every day. Sharon, shout out to Sharon. I,
This
I
is
fuck with
true.
her. Pray for
Like, I
Sharon. I love her. I got so much love for her and all my homies out there, But like, honestly, dude, that's scary.
yeah, no, it is. But at the same time, it's also fucking hilarious to
Shout out to
see
Sharon.
It's fucking hilarious to like have to watch statists and people who want to control others using government. It's funny to watch them eat their own shit sometimes. And this is definitely
Damn.
one of those situations.
Alrighty, next up on our list.
All right, fine. Did either of you watch Creepy Uncle Biden's apology video?
I watched it.
Oh, the apology video. Now
That
that
felt
there.
very forced.
I didn't watch
Yeah,
it. I don't know what's
it was
happening.
it was very much like a formality more than
Yeah.
anything. There was not a hint of
Malcolm,
sincerity.
do you know what Joe Biden did?
He was like touching people. He was
Yeah.
like touching kids.
And he released a video apologizing for doing that.
They're literally sociopaths. Like I don't expect shit from them. I really don't. Like as long as they're out of the office and they're fucking living their lives, I really could give a shit less about those people because there's already bad people out there, you know. And like eventually we're gonna figure out the whole chain and shit. You know, all the Haiti stuff is gonna come to light. All the stuff with Hillary is gonna come to light. Everybody's gonna be like, "I told you so." It's gonna be easy peasy lemon squeezy. And until that happens, I just need them all to shut the fuck up and like stop doing things. Like just live your life. You're gonna get paid for the rest of your life. Stop doing stuff. Just fucking just go.
I mean,
go home.
Biden is still running for president, which is fucking crazy.
We're not putting him in office. That's for fucking certain.
That's what they said about Donald J. Trump, but look where we are at now.
This is very true.
What?
Everybody said Donald Trump wouldn't get in office, and look where we are now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like now we have actual reason to say that he's not going to get into office because like they fucking
But think about how much the Russian collusion was an actual reason. Think about how much those emails.
Yeah, but
like,
it didn't even work. It didn't
it
work.
didn't work, and the same thing could be applied here. This apology video may not be enough of a deterrent to keep Biden off the path. We simply do not know what we do not know.
Dude, the apology video would put him forward. Why would you think that this video would make them think like, oh, he shouldn't be let into office? Like, dude, if they got an apology from Biden, knowing the fucking culture these days, they would take that shit and just be like, not even giving them a slap on the wrist. They would just be like, oh yeah, okay, you know.
Unless there's controversy over that video, and I find that there is a lot of controversy over that video because, as Trigger mentioned, it's very forced. If you like start to read the room, so to speak, yeah.
If you watch the video, he is very uncomfortable, and it's clearly a formality, as Josh said. It's very clearly
snap.
It's very clearly political theater. And it's also very clear that Biden is a bad actor.
And that fucking other dude.
What other dude?
I don't even know his name. They like had this weird like camera work done to be like, don't let Donald Trump be in office or some shit. I don't even know.
That was like all of the media. You're gonna have to be a little more specific.
I don't even know. It was some weird like. It was her and some dude. I can't remember his name. He was like white, and they were just like talking about whatever they wanted to in this weird monotonous manner. Well, actually, that is on the media now that I think about it.
That is true.
I don't know. And let's just move on. I don't fucking.
All right. So,
to be honest,
popping back into international law to talk about censorship again. Do either of you know who Tommy Robinson is? Nope.
Oh, that's in the deck.
It's familiar, but explain because it's not coming to me right now.
So Tommy Robinson a few years ago released an article where he talked about the Muslim rape gangs and how they were being ignored by society.
Right.
And when I say that, what I mean is in England and a lot of other places, but England where he lives specifically, Pakistani migrants who have been taken in as refugees, and it's not just Pakistani, but that's like the largest group of Muslim migrants.
Right.
Have been forming these kind of ghettos, which for clarity, just means an ethnically non-diverse region. Suburbs are ghettos, believe it or not.
There we go. There we go. Throwing in that vocabulary. 2 points for you.
Yeah, but what's happening in these areas is the police aren't enforcing laws, and these grooming gangs of Muslims are taking young girls and basically forcing them into sex slavery
You
is what's
know,
going on, and it's still not really being addressed.
I mean,
And
it
he
kind of
released an
has, but
article
nobody
calling
wants
them
to talk
out.
about it, and I don't know why.
He released an article calling them out, and he got locked up
What the fuck?
by
You
the
see that shit?
government.
Where?
The government locked him up in England. He lives in the United Kingdom,
Yo, what the fuck? He should have moved here before he started talking shit.
the same place Count Dankula lives. And we all know what happened to Count Dankula.
Yo, nigga, that's
Yeah,
crazy as
got
shit.
nailed for some stupid stuff.
Fucking Nazi pug. It was a hilarious video.
Bro, what the fuck?
At any rate,
That
though,
dude got locked up?
yeah,
What's his name?
Like
What's his name?
England, it's kind of funny because if you examine like international on an international basis,
What's
a lot of
his
these
name?
you
What's
start to
his name?
understand that
What's his
that
name?
governments have like personalities of their own. And England, like England is a fairly stable person, but his one big issue is he's a paranoid mother effer. Anything that he sees as like having a chance of dissidence is going to get axed by the law. So
Yo,
he's
what?
overbearing on his children, the citizen.
this is true.
What are you talking about? Oh, are you like personifying England as like a
Yeah.
dad?
Yeah, it's like
Um,
anthropomorphism. I'm trying to sort of reimagine these world governments as personalities and whatnot. And
I'm
England's
scared.
he's even headed, but he's very paranoid. He's like an overbearing parent on the citizens.
but all of that,
He's like,
ba-
time out every fucking like 10 minutes.
yeah. And so, like, Tommy Robinson is doing political activism, working for the United Kingdom Independence Party, trying to split the UK from the EU. And he's also been doing a lot of rallies for their conservative quote unquote party.
Hmm. Interesting.
And that brings us to where we are now. Now, Tommy Robinson, this time the government isn't the one coming for him. This time, Tommy Robinson has been quietly deleted from YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook.
You're going without me, guys.
Like, y'all remember what happened to Alex Jones?
Yeah, what happened? When he got deplatformed?
Yeah, that's basically what just happened to Tommy Robinson.
Oh shit! What happened? Who's Tommy Robinson? What's he do?
I literally just explained all of it to you.
I'm messing with you, man. Chill out. Now I'm waiting for Josh because that dude like left, so you're gonna have to re-explain it. Is what I'm saying.
Ugh,
Like you should have just waited.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Hold on, I'm gonna type something up real quick.
really? Midstream?
I mean, he's gone. I don't know what you want to talk about, man.
Talk about this. We can
I don't
still
want to have
talk
to
about.
re-explain it. That's why I just said you should have waited. Like we're just taking a little, like, what, maybe 5 minute break. He doesn't take that long. Let people get a snack, get some water, maybe. I don't know. Put on some music. Chill
Nah,
out.
because, like, his family called him up.
Yeah, he's not gonna be gone for long. Knowing him, he's like, he always is like dedicated to his tasks, dude. Like, look, you know his work ethic.
Let me go get it.
See,
You know what? While he's gone, how do you feel about the whole windmill cancer situation?
man, I don't know what that is, and I'm not gonna put no words on it.
And he's going to
I'm gonna
be
let
back
God
for
take
a
the
temporary
lead on that
measure,
one.
but I'm probably going to have to be extricating myself from the conversation.
All
I'm
right.
sad
So the censorship of
as
Tommy
shit.
Robinson. Tommy Robinson has recently been quietly removed from social media, basically, including
Yes.
YouTube. And
Yeah.
remember when everyone was sitting there talking about Alex Jones and banning him,
Uh-huh.
and everyone was like, a few people, including myself, were talking about how all of us are Alex Jones. Because eventually
yeah.
they're going to do the same thing to everyone with a controversial opinion or an opinion that the establishment doesn't like. And now we're seeing it happen again with Tommy Robinson.
Damn, dude, this shit's going off. I don't. Oh,
Like
I don't
Silicon
fucking.
Valley all operate as a singular group because all of them, all the major tech companies are in the same area, like within a few miles of each other.
Silicon Valley, right?
Yeah. And
You just said Silicon Valley.
yeah, I literally did just say that. But
I put the same prank on him just now. I predicted that.
but the
That's hilarious.
as much as I believe, because this kind of goes back to a conversation we had in one of our first streams where we talked about internet censorship and the rights of the people to post versus the rights of the company to censor and only allow what they want on their platforms.
Okay, wait. Okay, listen. I've been actually thinking about that for a while lately.
All right.
And I got something to say about that. I have an actual destination with this like string of thoughts. So with companies, for me, with that kind of like authoritarian, vibe to be present in what they're gonna do with like individual user activity, like when it has to come to monitoring and all that shit. Like, okay, if they want to do that, then they need to treat the individuals as if they were employees and they're monitoring in-work activity. So, like, at work, you have a certain set of like activities, that you do. You have, certain parameters that you go on. If you're self-employed, you have a really different one than like a corporate, office type job. And you can go by like at-home work rules. Do your thing, fucking, your activity is like logged and shit. But if they want to go in and have a certain opinion about, oh, you're causing these ripples and da 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 da, and they can't explicitly say what's happening outside of there, you can do what you want within these parameters conversation. If something goes outside of that, what you established then fucking yeah, take their ass off the platform.
Well,
But if they're
especially with this case, because what we see with Tommy Robinson is Facebook at least justified their kicking him off of their platform by saying that he was making posts calling for violence against Muslims.
how?
Well, that's the thing, is they deleted his page, so we can't go and verify that. But considering that nobody has actually shown, like we haven't seen the actual posts screenshotted, because I can guarantee you, if someone as internationally popular and well known as Tommy Robinson,
Somebody would have said something before Facebook by then, and it
well,
would cause Facebook to do it.
well, if
Facebook would have
somebody,
just fucking gone in and done it. Because
yeah,
Facebook
but if
wouldn't have
somebody as
known.
high profile and right wing as Tommy Robinson had actually said something like that, not only would it have been screenshotted, but it would be international news. It would be
Oh
international
yeah,
news of everyone
exactly.
talking about it and everyone showing it,
It would have
and we
been a
haven't seen
comprehensive
it.
blow up that
And I
would have
think
been
that
before Facebook is what I'm saying.
this kind of is where we begin to see
That's crazy.
where the line is blurred, or no
That's
longer blurred, but where we're on the other side of the line for internet censorship. Because not only did they deplatform and deperson Tommy Robinson, right? But they have officially slandered him. They've officially stated falsehoods about the man in order to paint a negative image of him.
what in the fuck?
Yeah. No, that's the thing. Is like, this is the whole fucking world's going crazy. And this is just a symptom of the larger disease. I'm kind of sad that Josh had to just leave.
Yeah, he would
Because
have enjoyed this conversation.
Well, because I actually have a couple of stories about racism, one of which involves SDSU.
Oh snap!
And I know
Damn, I
that
know
he goes
somebody
there.
that goes to SDSU.
Yeah, we both do. We know several people who go to SDSU.
Yeah.
But the first story about racism that I found interesting, have you heard the controversy on Jordan Peele's comments?
Jordan Peele's the I won't have a black person in my movie or whatever, or a white person.
Yes, he, in an interview, Jordan Peele was talking about his new horror movie, Us,
Yeah, and he's like,
which is actually a fairly good movie.
is it? I haven't seen it.
It's nice. It's
I
not
haven't
like
seen either
it's
of his
not an
movies.
excellent movie, but it's pretty good.
Oh, cool. I'll probably enjoy it. I mean, I
Like
haven't
I
seen.
wouldn't rate it as one
Uh,
of the best movies, but it's definitely a good movie.
okay.
I'm okay. But the thing is,
That's what
when asked about his casting decisions, he specifically said, and I quote, "I'm not interested in casting white people. I've seen that movie. And the way I see it, I get to cast black people." That's what he said about his movie.
so weird. Like, why would you feel the
Now,
need?
I don't have a problem with that, but in general, I would not have gotten involved because obviously a bunch of right wing people are talking about how horrible that statement is. I'm indifferent to that statement. But what I do find amusing is how many liberals are running to his defense for making that statement. And I find this
I
amusing
know so many people are
because
congratulating him on it.
if a not even just a white, but if any director said, "I'm not interested in casting black people in my movie
That
because I've
shit
seen a movie
is.
with black
Oh my
people in it
god.
before and that story has already been told."
That's
Like
fucking.
basically the comparison that Jordan Peele made, yeah, that Jordan Peele made is that all movies featuring white actors are the same,
I
which is
when I
obviously a
heard that shit, I
ridiculous
was like,
statement.
wow.
It's obviously a ridiculous
It honestly
statement.
amazed me. It amazed me. I was sitting there in like awe. I was like, wow.
But
That nigga really just
what has
really
me
said
in
that.
awe is the liberal news anchors and liberal personalities who are genuinely talking about how it's perfectly fine. But I guarantee if somebody sat there and said the same thing in reverse, if somebody sat there and was like, "I don't feel like casting black people in this movie because I've seen a movie with black people before and I don't want to tell that story again because all movies featuring black people are the same," they'd be losing their goddamn minds. Like
I can't
obviously,
even.
I want to reiterate again. I'm not saying Jordan Peele can't say something like that. That is not the problem I have here. The problem I have is the amount of inconsistency shown by a lot of people involved in politics. Because a lot of people have pointed out too, um, Republicans, a lot of them are talking about how awful this is. But when Tim Burton said that he wouldn't cast black people in his movies because it didn't fit his aesthetic, they didn't care. And now they hate Jordan Peele for saying that he won't cast white people in his movie. And I think um, the amount to which both sides show massive inconsistencies
That irritates me. I don't like. I don't like how they play the
absolutely
game.
baffles me.
I don't like how they play the game. I just don't. It just irritates me. Like if you're gonna have a
Honestly, when I
stance,
think
and fucking
people,
play that stance, and if you don't, then stop. Then don't pretend that you have one because it just like, it makes your point mute half the time. You know,
it really
and the
does.
other half of the time, because it's such high stakes stuff. If half of the time you're fucking bullshitting us, then the other half of the time you're just gonna be like, well, I don't really know if I should trust these people. And it's like, for a certain amount of time, you can have us baffled and, use that other 50% of the time and just be like, yeah, we're doing stuff. But then eventually you're going to run out of, like, good fortune, and you're going to turn back to your fucking goofy ways and you're not going to be able to own up to it because, like, you know, that's both sides. Like, I don't understand why people are so, like, eager to be part of one or the other side. Like as a joke, I told this one person that I'm a Democratic Republican. And I'm just like, dude, like I don't pick sides, I pick people. And those
Yeah.
those friggin'
And even though I officially like recognize myself as a libertarian because I take almost every libertarian stance just naturally. I also kind of feel that picking a side and only sticking to that side,
It's dangerous.
yeah, it's a dangerous line of thinking. And
Doesn't work
we're
out
seeing
for
a
you,
lot
man.
more of that. And I think this is very emblematic of that. Now, the other story I wanted to talk about, I say the other like there's only two. There's like five. Yeah, five stories about racism. The second one is SDSU involved. And what happened is apparently someone screamed the N word and it got caught on camera. And because of that, they're having this huge, um, black healing space. However,
Healing space? What?
because apparently they need to heal because they heard, because staff and students watched a video on the internet of someone at SDSU saying the N word. I have many problems with the footage though, because the only footage of this event is some woman in her car taking the video in selfie form with the camera pointed at her and at the ceiling of her car. We don't see the person who screams the N word. We don't get any context other than someone screaming that and her saying that the person was saying that while driving away and that they were white. That is all the information that we have.
That's fucking crazy. We don't even have like an actual.
We
We don't
don't
even
have
know
an
if it's
actual
real.
thing. We don't know if it's real. For all we know, it was hoaxed. For all we know, maybe someone who was black screamed it, and this is all a big deal over what, according to most African Americans, would say is nothing because they're a brother.
Oh my
And
god!
I think the
As a
fact,
brother.
and I think
It's
the
fucking
fact that we're
hilarious.
willing to go from zero to panic mode
In like
immediately
immediate.
over
You know,
one person saying a word off screen of a
that's a
video,
dangerous mentality to be in.
yeah, that's a dangerous mentality. And just to think, this is how the next generation of leaders, the next generation of everything is, this is the environment that they are existing in. This is the kind of paranoid environment in which a single video of someone saying the N word off screen results in classes being shut down and professors and students of African American descent all collectively going and having these healing safe spaces where no white people are allowed
It's fucking
because they need to
weird,
heal.
dude. That's so weird.
And this is the kind of shit that it's being taught not just at SDSU. SDSU just happens to be where it happened, but this is being taught like everywhere. This kind of culture where people's reaction to minor things is to shut down. And that's a dangerous precedent for the world to have set.
That's so weird.
I mean, yeah, it is. I mean, what do you think about that? Just the whole thing in general.
I just I don't know what to think at this point. Like the coping mechanisms that these people are expressing, they seem like really like almost unhealthy
I mean, yeah.
personally. But I mean again it's kind of it to me it registers almost as like a primal like defense mechanism of like making an outwardly visible yet um small and initial like facade type expression, but it's also like really volatile and fragmented within. It's kind of that kind of, you know, hive behavior that I'm seeing. It's really weird and tribal and kind of primal, like I already said. And I think that it's not, I don't think it's articulate enough uh, to survive long term in a
I mean, what it
positive
is
manner.
it's a willing reintroduction of segregation one step at a time.
Exactly.
But
We're
it's also
backtracking.
a mentality. It's also a herd separation mentality where through events like this, where it's immediately assumed that because somebody on campus said the N word, that it was a white person and that their intentions were racist. And it's sort of not directly, but indirectly sets up this narrative, at least to the non-white students, that white people are the enemy. Because that's the reaction. The reaction that was had is that white people are the enemy in this instance.
That's weird to me. Like, to view them as the enemy. Like, why all of a sudden are we doing that?
That's kind of the concern because it seems like the intent of such an action would be to be, create the
It's so
underpinnings
weird
of
that
a
people
race
like
war, but who wants
people
that?
dude, people all the time that have this type of argument like just genuinely confuse me because it always kind of throws me off. Like, how do you come to that consensus? It's so weird. Like,
I don't know how.
throughout history, who was freeing black people, Christians, white people, those people who came and settled in America and made America based on Christian and
I mean,
Judeo, other Christ
it
religion
feels
offshoot type shits.
it makes me feel
Who
a
brought
little
women out? The
yeah, I mean,
people
it makes
who
me feel like a broken record every time I say it, but I don't know why white people get so much hatred for what happened under slavery. Because as awful as slavery was, white culture was the first culture in the world to actually, with one voice, say, this is fucked up. We need to stop this. In most places of the world, it's still practiced to this day. White culture was the culture that said, maybe we shouldn't enslave people against their will and force them to work for free and treat them like property. Maybe that's a bad idea. In other places, particularly in Africa and the Middle East and certain parts of Central Asia, they still think that's a good idea.
that's fucking like that's tweaked out.
Like, it baffles me all the time that people want to act like slavery was this uniquely American thing and that slavery was this uniquely white, cultural trait, and that therefore we're the enemy. But in all honesty and all fairness, they were the first cultures to get rid of it.
Yeah, it's like how are you gonna be so
So I
unfair? Like,
don't know. I
that's
don't
the
know
same
how
culture
people
that freed
justify that in their
us.
minds, except a lack of understanding about history.
Exactly. Like, white people literally.
Now, talking about
I'm
time, I'm going to get on to the third story.
Yeah, I don't know. I could go on
So,
and on, but yeah.
so you know what? I mean, as much of a joke as websites like Now This are, you know what they're talking about now and
Oh,
decrying as racist?
I don't even know, man.
The concept of time is a white imperialist idea
Oh,
and is
are
therefore
you
racist.
serious?
I couldn't make
Time?
it through the entirety of the video,
It's
but I
literally the
saw
idea of
the Now
black people
This
time
video.
coming to life in a legitimate argument, and I'm
Like
crying with laughter.
yeah, like I literally only watched part of the video because I just could not make it through because it was that level of fucking idiocracy. But Now
I
This actually fucking released a video about
Okay, you
how
cussing a lot. You cussing a lot. Chill
I
out.
am cussing a lot because this is stupid and I don't like to tolerate stupid.
I mean, you don't have to tolerate it necessarily, do you? Because like it's
I mean,
kind of a stupid argument in itself. So
I
I
mean,
don't
it
think a
is
lot
a
of black
stupid
people are
argument,
gonna believe it either.
but
'Cause, like, black people aren't dumb, so
yeah, but the number of people who take Now This as gospel is insane to me. I know way more people who act like Now This is a flawless news source than I feel comfortable admitting. And
okay.
then they come out with some stuff like this, talking about how the concept of time was forced onto black people, and how just the concept and holding the concept means that you hold and internalize white power.
What?
No matter the color of your skin, you internalize the concept of white power if you accept time as a concept.
That's so. I don't even what.
And this is kind of my obligatory, because I've been trying to put one of these in every week. This is my obligatory liberalism is a fucking mental disorder moments. Because this is my obligatory message for this week. Liberalism is a mental disorder.
Go
And
on,
this is my
finish.
proof. This is my infallible evidence
This nigga
that
got
liberalism is a
infallible
mental
evidence.
disorder. Y'all
Oh,
need to seek some psychological help. Y'all need some therapy.
psychological, he says. Therapy, he says.
I mean, I'm not wrong.
Y'all hear this dude? Y'all need to listen to him.
Listen to Daddy Reed.
Goodbye.
Now, let's talk about Portland. You
Oh
know
my goodness.
how busy Portland's been?
They've been having a lot of stuff going on with Proud Boys and Black Lives Matter, right?
Yep. And guess what?
Something happened with
Portland is having trouble recruiting new police officers
what? Oh, what?
because nobody wants to sign up for the police force. And those that are signing up for the police force?
I'm getting fucking brutalized.
No, the people that are signing up for don't qualify
Oh,
to be
what?
police officers. They don't
How?
make the trials. Because, like, you have all the background checks and shit, and the people who are. Oh, and you also have to qualify for mental and physical fitness wellness checks. And most of the people who are signing up are getting screened out by those. The number one cause of that is weed, because
Oh my
it's
God.
still illegal to make. It's still, according to the national law, if your officer has smoked cannabis in the last year, you can't actually make them a police officer if they've
Oh
been
my
caught
gosh.
smoking. But all the qualified candidates are not joining the police force. And low key, it's because of how much Portland doesn't tolerate the police and how often they're brutalized there by groups like Black Lives Matter, who run around proclaiming the inherent racism of a police force.
End of time. Now them niggas got time as racist. I'm dead. Like what? They got
Yeah.
okay. So now they're literally they in the span of like a week, mind you, they shifted their argument from Trump Russia collusion, saying openly that there's no evidence for that whatsoever, and the whole time that they've been saying that they have evidence, it's been a lie. Like everybody else has been saying, they've done that and
I mean, there's
backtracked to the
news on
point
that.
that
There's news on the Russia collusion.
their main argument now is that there's gonna be a shortage of avocados within 3 weeks because the border might get shut down.
I mean,
That's their argument.
I keep waiting for there to be like a gotcha moment, because like all of this came out on the week of April 1st. I'm just waiting.
I swear.
I'm praying for this
It's
all to
a
be a
joke. I
giant
swear to God.
overblown joke, but there
Supposed to
seems to be
this would be like the
no sign of
biggest
this being a
build up
joke.
for a joke. I swear. But this is the reality of
Yeah, this
US
is
politics.
You're not dreaming, right? This is reality now. This is the world we live in. This is the fucking world we live in, where people are this. Actually, continuing on how dumb a world we live in, I want to talk about the last case of racism, which Alcom's gonna love, because we're hearing about our old friend again, Jesse Smollett.
Oh my God. So what else happened with that? I didn't even know this was coming up yet.
A Chicago attorney is demanding that he get another trial because he was unfairly charged.
What?
Air quotes around unfairly charged.
What?
Like I said last week, every time I think that we're not going to hear from this motherfucker again and that it can't get any worse. It gets worse every time. We've been talking about this for months, and every week we bring it up, something more happens. Like Jesse Smollett, in this one instance, is the gift that keeps on giving. Are you texting?
Low key, high key. I'm so sorry. I'm listening to you, and it's like
No, I just suddenly heard the tapping, and I'm like, are you? But no, it's just absolutely ridiculous that they're demanding a retrial because he was unfairly
I know, like
charged.
they're gonna land him in jail. They're gonna
Yeah.
put him in jail for us. Like we were gonna ask. We were gonna ask for another trial, like all of us as people of the United States. And they were like, no, we're gonna give him to you because that's how much we hate him. That's literally what they're doing right now, and I'm
I mean, it's just ridiculous the level because he's also being sued by the Chicago Police Department because of the fact that he took up so many police resources in this basically stupid prank of his. Like, I guess it's more accurately described as political theater now that I think about it. But still, this is just another level of crazy.
this shit is nuts. Like I don't know like what is coming next anymore. I really don't.
Like the
Like,
saga,
I don't
it's
even
hard
know.
to. It's hard to what?
I don't know. It's hard to like conceptualize all this as our freaking government. This is like it's so stupid. Like this is what's happening.
Now, do you
The
understand why I
law.
don't trust the government to do anything? I wouldn't trust the government to wipe its own ass.
It's funny to watch, but also not fun to smell. So what you gonna do? Just not be part of it.
Unfortunately, you can't not be a part of it.
You can. You can just leave.
Well, true, we can leave, but then you have to deal with other governments, which are often worse.
No, just live in the water. Live in the water. Be a mermaid and live in the water.
Just find an island.
No, just live in the water. Like live in it.
That's what we should do. We should go find an island and we should set up like a settlement there and
No,
not recognize the
no
authority of
islands.
any government.
No islands. I don't want an island. I want to be one with the water. I want to live in the water. I want to live deep in the water. I want to be a fish man.
You want to be a fish man?
Yes.
You want to be a fish man?
Absolutely.
Am I hearing this correctly?
Yes, sirree, Bob.
It's fucking gay.
Just a little bit of hay. It's fine. We're in California.
That is true. That is true. We are in the proud state of dumb fuckistan.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, it makes me sad.
I'm not sad.
That's another idea that's being batted around actually that I want to bring up while I'm thinking of it. Is people have been
people who think, yeah.
well no, people have been talking about proposing a measure where they want to basically isolate California and tell Californians they can't leave. Like, there's genuinely people in the flyover states who think it's a good idea to quarantine California.
What? Why?
To keep liberal ideas in California.
What? Why?
Which I can't blame them for because, like, holy fuck, we have some stupid ideas and we have some stupid people living here. But also, like,
work. Like, why is that an idea for fixing that?
Because people think that they can legislate their way in and out of problems.
I don't like that.
I don't like it either. But
people have to literally exist. Like, are you hello?
So about windmill cancer, the latest Trump debacle.
What is happening?
What is happening? Apparently Trump made a comment about windmills causing cancer.
Windmills.
Yes, and I think he meant to say wind turbines, but even then.
That's not correct, sir.
And I feel like we have to talk about this. Oh shit. I feel like we have to talk about this because um we do keep talking No, I'm looking at an article about this and a fucking advertisement came up because I didn't think to mute my phone.
Oh, okay.
Because like we keep talking about how Trump isn't like a saint. And this is kind of
Obviously.
yeah, but we haven't really covered many stories about him. And I think this is just the perfect example of he's just another dumb politician saying dumb shit to advance his career. And this is the perfect
Yes.
example of like I don't know how you come to that conclusion. I don't know who advised him on that. I don't know where he got that idea, and I don't know who he thought was going to buy that bullshit.
I'm dead.
I mean, we're all dead. We're all in a process of slowly dying. Is
Oh
there
my
any last
God.
words you have?
You gotta chill out with all that, man. Ooh. It went a little too fast, you know what I'm saying? Like, chill out. Calm it
Do I
down.
really have to chill out?
I would prefer if you did. Just a tad.
You
Like,
you would prefer if I did.
personally, yes.
All right, fine. I'll chill out with dark cynicism. It's not like we have very many topics. In fact, we only have one topic left.
We're just talking about like a little bit more stuff. Like, just you could have kept that at the beginning. I'm settled into the groove of the convo. You can't just hit me with that.
I mean, yeah.
I'm gonna come for you. I'm gonna come at you with my hand outstretched, and you're just gonna be like, "Oh snap! What's he gonna do?"
So
That's gonna be
the
the
last
same.
topic I wanted to talk about is how feminism is tearing itself apart over trans inclusionism.
Sadly.
And I know that we've brought this up before and how the left likes to cannibalize itself. We have talked about that, right? Right, Elcom?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I mean, it's not like a foreign topic.
Yeah, I mean, but this time what's happening is there's apparently two factions within feminism, and there's one topic that seems to be bringing them to blows with each other, and that is whether or not trans people should qualify for protections under the Equal Protections Act.
Boy, what?
So, you know how the Equal Protections Act says that you cannot discriminate based on race
Yeah.
for shit like scholarships and whatnot?
Yeah.
Well, they're talking about adding trans people to that.
Oh my gosh.
Well, the radical trans exclusionist feminists are talking about how that would basically ruin the concept of female only scholarships and how that needs to be stopped. And apparently, there's a couple of them on college campus who are coming to basically what equates to a shit war, like a shit flinging war.
Monkeys.
Yeah. Because a trans inclusionary feminist, which is all I'm going to call them because that's the only name I can think of at the moment, brought up how intolerable that is and how she's not being very tolerant of trans people. Now, I don't know how many times I've told people, and I don't know how many times you've told people that the left is just going to slowly cannibalize itself as disparate factions within the radical left wing, which is basically what's left of the left,
Yeah.
is these radical left-wing groups, as they slowly begin to cannibalize each other, turning on each other to claim ultimate power within the
Well, yeah,
party.
we're not even the only ones saying that. Like,
Yeah,
if you look
like
at
the
it
Democratic Party
all
is
the
getting
time,
real Games of Thronesy.
dude,
Game of Thronesy.
yeah, it's way too fragmented as a mass movement. It's crazy. There's too many things happening.
And that's kind of the big reason why I think Trump is a shoo-in for the presidency this
Yeah,
upcoming election.
kind of the only thing that we know right now.
Yeah, because let's be honest, no matter who gets the candidacy for the Democratic Party, the majority of the party is going to hate them because they belong to one of the many factions, and all of the other factions hate. All the factions hate the other factions, every single one of them. And on one hand, it's kind of amusing to watch, and on the other hand, it's very frightening just to see the state of how backstabbing politics is on the Democratic side, and the fact that a lot of the Republican Party is starting to resemble the path that led the Democratic Party to this. And I can't help myself from thinking, like, how long it is until that's just politics, is the endless backstabbing and the endless plotting against each other.
Until we dissolve the government and have all the power in the private sector.
Or we follow the path of the Roman Empire, where power, instead of being voted on, is seized by assassinations and military coups.
Well, yeah, but I don't think that would happen in America.
I don't think that'll happen anytime soon. Obviously, first we'd have to get rid of our Senate and declare somebody the emperor.
Soon, then it's not going to happen at all.
Are you saying that America is not going to be around for a long time? Because I could buy into that too.
Going to be around for a long time.
This is true. But the politicking and factioning and sub-factioning within the Democratic Party, what I find crazy is almost exactly what George Washington warned against. Because, how much of the Founding Fathers have you studied? Basically, one of the big papers that George Washington wrote was about why we shouldn't create political factions. And his whole thing about why political parties shouldn't exist is because it factionalizes the people into tribal groups who sort of mindlessly follow whatever
their group
is, and then they end up, basically what he described is people end up cannibalizing groups as they find petty reasons to hate each other, and they'll refuse to work with other groups. And I think that's what we're beginning to see, which is, I think the reason that prophecy is coming true is the only reason the Republican Party is doing so well is simply because the Democratic Party is far too factionalized to actually amount to anything.
Yeah.
I think that's the only reason that Trump won. And I think that's the only reason that we as a party are going to keep winning for a while. At least until such a time as the Democratic Party gets their shit together or some third party rises to extreme prominence. And I'm really hoping that a series of third parties all take prominence and that we can ditch this shitty two-party system.
I hope so. Maybe techno-progressivism or something.
Yeah. Because honestly, the winner-takes-all system that we have kind of encourages this factioneering where people are unwilling to work with each other because you're either with us or against us.
So if it's going to happen, we should have some side thing that's doing its own thing,
Yeah. I don't know how you feel about that. Do you have any comments on that last bit?
You're pretty, spot on from my perspective. I might change eventually, but for now, this has been an interesting conversation. I'm pretty much, I'm chilling.
Yeah. And then I guess to finish it off, we'll start with another funny story.
I love funny stories.
Just to laugh for a little bit before we log off. Did you see the Fox News hiccup where Trump is cutting US aid to 3 Latin American countries?
Oh, no. I didn't see that.
And the headline, or not the headline, but the thing at the bottom of the screen where the Fox newscasters were talking said Trump cuts US aid to 3 Mexican countries.
Okay.
It's a little funny mishap. Everything
Say that
south
again?
of the border is Mexico.
Say that again? Did they say 3 Mexican countries?
Yes,
Oh, good.
I'm so fucking dead. Obviously that was just like a small hiccup, probably from one person who hadn't had enough coffee that morning.
Like, oh shit, I didn't mean to say that. And then that's how it happened.
Yeah, or like
Completely
like a
logical.
typo that slipped by everybody because they were stressed.
Yeah, they're like, we gotta get this shit out, but we can't talk about the important stuff.
But it's really funny. It's really funny when shit like that happens, especially to news networks that talk about how great and almighty they are.
Agreed.
Like, I love it when it happens to CNN. I love it when it happens to Fox because they need to be broken down from their pedestals.
Absolutely.
They need to come off their fucking high horses if we're actually going to solve any of the problems we have.
Yeah, you tell them. You tell them.
I mean, honestly, I can't do anything but tell them because at the end of the day, what can I do?
You tell them.
I cannot watch them. That's about the best I can do.
I haven't watched them. No, fat ass Reddit.
Well, in any case, that's the full hour and a half ish. So hopefully next week we'll have Josh for the whole duration of the podcast instead of just the not the end. We only had him at the beginning. And we will see you next week with hopefully some stories that aren't basically a bunch of jokes waiting to happen.
Shit's too fucking stupid for me.
I know this whole thing is fucking stupid.
Lost my
This
last
whole week, the whole week was a fucking joke. Anyway, I'll see y'all next week. Adios.